Available on the AFDW University website. The link is also in the chat. At this time, I will turn it over to Mr. Hawkins for the UMD. Immediately following him will be Mr. Perez for the CPI. Mr. Hawkins, the floor is yours.
Okay. Well, good morning. As you said earlier, hey, my name is Hubert Hawkins. I'll be doing a brief overview of the how to read the UMD. Keep in mind, this is just a basic view and understanding. And for more detail, you can always reach out and contact one of our A1M analysts, for more of detailed explanation. Okay. Overview, UMD versus the UMPR. Then we'll cover some of the functions of the UMD, and then we'll briefly discuss requirements versus authorizations. And then we'll just look at the UMD fields as a whole. And then we'll also talk about the manpower change request that's needed to make any change to the UMD. And then afterwards, we'll field all questions. What is a unit manpower document? That's the first question. And essentially, it's just a record that contains all the manpower information for an organization requirements. It also shows the organizations and the grade structure, the funding status, the OSCs, and it can be provided as often as the customer requests. And also keep in mind that each UMD can be tailored to meet the customer's needs. So for example, a commander might need not as much information as what a chief might need because they go further into the weeds when they're trying to balance out all the personnel, or I'm sorry, all the requirements. UMD versus the UMPR. This is often confused with the UMPR. So looking at the slide, you'll see where the unit manpower document is managed by our office, but it shows the authorized and the funding information on the position. Whereas the unit personnel management roster is managed by the military personnel flight, and it shows all of the assigned personnel information. Now, the UMD also interfaces with other databases. So any changes made to the UMD will be updated, as you can see down below, whereas with the MIA PDS is updated weekly, but every Thursday at 2 o'clock. SEAL Purse is updated Wednesday at the end of the month. And then also DCPDS is updated weekly, whereas every Wednesday. So that's when our database interfaces with the others. Now, some of the functions of the UMD. It basically just provides commanders and managers a consolidated detailed account of his organization structure, its skill sets, its grades, its security requirements, um, but just the pertinent data that's needed for his just to manage his manpower resources. And then most importantly, it's a position number. Every individual that's assigned to a position number, this is the main asset of a UMD. Right. Requirements versus authorization. When you're looking at your UMD, these would be two of the fields that would stand out. And a requirement is basically what I need to perform the work. The authorization is what I have to get it done. That's the funded requirement. When you get your UMD, it's going to look as such. Um, you'll see your SID, your passcode, and your office symbol codes. Ensure that whatever that you're requesting, make sure that you do have indeed what it is that you want. Uh, some of the fields that's used, for requirement determination, we use the fact code. So when they're wanting to see what requirements are needed for a particular work center level, there's normally like an alphabet that we actually go into to determine what they actually need in order to get the work done. And then also like the position number, it's going to be one of the main fields that you'll notice. It is a 10-character code, which identifies the manpower position. But it also corresponds with the UPM uh, upper, and the last two digits or characters are 4W, which is the MASCOM ID. And then some of the classification scale of fields on UMD, it's going to be with the FSC, the grades and required grades, and the RIC. But keep in mind, as I stated earlier, the grade, the grade is the authorization or the authorized or the funded grade, i.e. what the Air Force can afford. But the required grade that reflects the position would be graded if the Air Force had the money it needed to fully fund our programs. So as you see the example, there's a major that is required, but they have a captain that's actually what they have is actually doing the work. And then also continuing, you see the PECs, the funding status and effective date and the through date. The funding status is what you want to look at because any UMD that you're going to get, you want to make sure that your funding um, is what you're looking for it to be. Make sure that you do have funding or get assigned to that position number. So most UMDs you will see funded or you will see 5 X's. If it's unfunded, it'll be 4 X's with the R in front. And then at the effective date, if there's any change that you request to get done, the effective date would change to say, I made up a change on this position effective on this date, and it's going to be through 12/31/47/12. Well, that through date is the infinity date because as long as the position has funding, it just goes out. Now, if you made like a temporary change, then your through date will reflect how long you want that position change to be there, and then it go right back to the through date. And then the fiscal year on out, make sure that you got your ones or your zeros. That the ones are indicative of the funding. Zero would be unfunded. As we've talked about the what is the UMD and the authorization versus the requirements, and then just some of the fields that you will look at UMD as a manager or as a customer, any change that you would like to reflect on your UMD, you can just submit a manpower change request, which is out there on our share drive, or you can just request one from your A1M office. Um, but just keep in mind that when you want to make a change to your UMD, it can't be for a shortage of assigned personnel. It can't be any personnel related issues or conflicts, lack of tools or equipment, or lack of performance and production standards, i.e. So make sure that all the changes do fall in line with the change to FAC grades, skill levels, the OSCs or the PAS. That's an improved organization structure. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you. And next up will be Eric Perez, who will be talking about the continuous process improvement.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Eric Perez, and I will be going over your continuous process improvement briefing. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Are the slides shown where you see the header slide, continuous process improvement?
Yes.
Wonderful. So as I said, my name is Eric Perez. We're going to go over CPI today. The topics we're going to touch on are the policy. What does lean mean to you? Some of the CPI tools, what the practical problem solving model methodology is, some of its associated problem solving tools, what are process improvement events, what's next, and of course, everyone's role. For policy, CPI is governed from a number of different modes of requirements, starting with AFI-1-2, the commander's responsibilities. We are also included in AFI 90-201, the Air Force Inspection System, which is where you will find the Commander's Inspection Program. Some of the commander's responsibilities that are outlined in both these two regulations include strategically aligned organization, improve processes, develop performance metrics, and the making of data-driven decisions. Overall, CPI does have its own regulation, and that, if you want a further in-depth look at that regulation, that would be DAFI 38401. So as we jump into what does lean mean to you, we ask, what does continuous process improvement look like? I'd like to give you one example that I'm sure everybody can see the evolution. What does it mean to you? When most people think about lean, certain words and phrases come to mind. Things like streamlined, avoiding cost, eliminating waste, averting disaster. You'll see that there are other ones that are associated with lean, but in essence, lean is all about having a more efficient and effective program. Lean's objectives surround productivity, equipment availability, improving response times and/or agility, sustaining safe and reliable operations, but in overall improving efficiency. Some CPI tools that you will hear of and learn more of if you decide to further your knowledge about CPI are the 5 principles of lean, standard work, 5S, and value stream mapping. As we talk about the 5 principles of lean, you'll see them outlined here. Standard work is another tool used within lean, and I'm sure you're very familiar with it. Some examples are any kind of a checklist, any kind of an outlined process, work instructions or standard operating procedures, and visual indicators to ensure things are placed where they are needed and fit best. Why is lean important or beneficial? Well, as you can see through the diagram, standardized work has an impact on quality, efficiency, compliance, and most importantly, safety. Standard work can make or break your organization. The 5S system we mentioned are a process of 5 different S's, standing for sort, straighten, shine, standardize, and sustain. The key thing I want you to know about the 5S system is that this process must be accomplished in order. You must start with sorting and finish with sustainment. Let's talk about waste. When you look around your organization, can you spot it? Lean identifies 7 different types of waste and has the acronym TIMWOOD. TIMWOOD stands for transportation, inventory, motion, waiting, overprocessing, overproduction, and defects. Any process, regardless of what its throughput, will have waste, and it may have more than one of these categories within it. The Air Force uses the practical problem model. It has 8 parts, and as you can see here, as I've divided it up into its 8 segments, I've also included some, not all, but some of the tools used within each of its category. Much like the 5S, it is highly recommended that you work the practical problem solving model or method in order. You may find as you are going in order, you have to go back and adjust, which is why the Air Force considers the PPSM a living document, meaning it can and should be changed as you progress through each step. Some problem-solving tools you may have recognized on the previous slide are very generic, and I'm sure you've heard and most likely used many times. Examples are brainstorming, doing interviews, using the 5 whys, and creating a value stream or process map. You'll see here images of examples for a process map, a 5 why concern, and a Ishikawa or fishbone diagram, which helps to identify and organize the cause and effect. Process improvement events, there are different types. Their first type is just do it, recently renamed or referred to as spotlights. These are very short-term, very low-level approving needed actions that can be done very, very quickly. As we progress or become more complex, you move into rapid improvement events. You may have heard of these. Most of these are generally about a week long. And then larger events, which typically can last anywhere from weeks to months, and depending on the scope, potentially even years, those are projects. Regardless of whether you're just doing it, conducting a rapid improvement event, or a project, there are 3 phases. You must have preparation, execution, and the most important, follow-up. So what's next? The challenge I have for you is when you look around your respective areas, ask yourselves, what can I improve? Once you've identified an area or an issue you'd like to improve, you may find yourself asking, where can I go for help? Or how do I get started? If you don't see anything that stands out right away, you may even find yourself asking, where can I find ideas of what's already been identified, assessed, and potentially improved? We're not asking you to do all the research or have all the knowledge. As you see listed here, the AFDW Master Process Owner is me, Eric Perez. My telephone number is 240-612-6596, or you can reach me at 520-400-9342. That is my cell. We have process managers for the 316th who you can go to that may be able to guide you in the right directions and assist you with your potential events. And those process managers are Mr. Earl Bagwell, whose primary phone number is 858-301-981-4817, or Tech Sergeant Escobar at 301-981-1344. They are in the 316th wing. The 11th wing process manager is currently vacant. So if you are associated with or have a process within the 11th wing and you'd like to get some questions answered or receive some guidance, please feel free to contact me directly. CPI is about everyone. It's not a matter of someone else taking care of it. When we're called upon to participate, whether it's a just do it or a project, we need to act. Remember, the first step when we're doing our analysis is identifying waste, looking at the process from end to end and identifying which waste can be removed. Not all waste can be removed. In fact, some waste is required. But your CPI process manager or facilitator can help you to determine which are which. Most everyone implements lean in our everyday life. If you look around, you'll see different examples of 5S. One quick example of 5S is if you look into your utensil drawer, you'll probably see a divider in there which separates your forks from your knives and your spoons, all different lengths and sizes. This is a form of lean so that things can stay organized, readily identifiable, and easily accessed. The other roles for everyone to incorporate is understanding what your leadership's strategic direction is and how you play a part. We're all here to help the organization as a whole, so we all must be an agent for change. And as the banner at the bottom of the slide says, you are the key to AFCPI success, which incorporates all of us doing all we can to improve efficiency and effectiveness within our processes. I'm going to leave you with a quote from Mr. Edward Deming, known as the father of quality. He said, if you can't describe what you are doing as a process, you don't know what you're doing. If you think about that, everything we do is a process. There are steps to it, a beginning and an end. Once you can describe that process, now you can start learning to see the waste within it. Any questions?